All right, there we go. Boy, it took a minute there to bring me over for some crazy reason. Once again, working with so many different things at one time, things will go a little bit awry, but again, we'll get everything straightened out. No big deal because that's just the way it works. You keep it going until things get straightened out, and after that, we just hope for the best. So, welcome everyone to coaching sessions here tonight with myself, Gia and Jesse. We've missed these guys. I know we've been trying to get everything back here on track as we're slowly transitioning back into newer and better things. Hopefully everything is working out here well tonight. I'm trying to see if the feed is coming across YouTube. So if you see me looking away a little bit from the camera, that's kind of the reason why. But tonight, since there's a lot of things that are going on in today's society, and what better night to do it in tonight, we're talking about the people who love to fact check the fact checkers. And then those people like to fact check the fact check to make sure that fact check is actually the fact correct check. So the craziest thing that it may be is that we hope that everyone knows and understands that, yes, there are people who love to still tell the truth, but unfortunately, you also have a bunch of people too who like to tell more than just the white lie because it's the perception. It's what they want you to believe. And so tonight, because it's always great to hang out with this best couple, and I'm hoping I'm going to bring this here to make sure I bring the range up, and it is Jesse and Gia. First of all, you guys, I've missed you extremely because I know we haven't been on in a great while, but how are you guys from that beautiful island that you guys are in?
Oh, it's so good to be back, Angel. We missed you.
Yes, we have.
And it is beautiful here in the Bahamas, as always. A little warm, but I hear it's kind of warm on the mainland too. You guys have been getting some heat.
Yeah,
Mother Nature is turning up the heat on all of us, but we're excited to be back in the cool Broad Street South studio.
We are doing very well, and like Genia said, just thrilled to finally be back with you. Good to see you. Good to see
everybody. Watching tonight, big shout out. And I love it. Like, what a better way to come back in action than talking about truth and lies. Like, that's exciting stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going around, huh?
That there is. And it, it seems kind of crazy because, again, you tried not to get caught up in so many different things that are happening. But it used to be before you could have a natural conversation, have fun with everybody, just kind of pick up on what people are throwing down, and you just kind of roll into it. The bad part is now is that you hope as people are putting out information and disinformation. I don't know where in the world that word came from, because it's either information, misinformation I've heard before, but disinformation. I mean, they're coming up with any single thing that they can possibly come up with to add in front of information. Fluctual information. Who knows what? But to me, we've gotten down to the point in society that as we speak to new people, as we hear what's going on with our government here, as we hear so many different things, what becomes the truth and what becomes a lie? And That's where we are at this point here, is trying to figure out exactly what it is. Whether when we're here talking amongst each other and we share information back and forth, we can all easily come up with a lie. Like I can easily lie and say, sure, I'm the next new billionaire from the Mega Millions. Well, that's a bold-faced lie, because obviously I still would be here doing what I'm doing, which is having fun. But at the same time, too, obviously, if I went back to work the next day, people were like, wait a minute, I thought you won the Mega Millions, but you didn't. So obviously I did it. But the big thing for me is we need to start figuring out a natural conversation, how things go. And as we talk to people, how do we pick up on their body language? Because everybody knows, if you pick up on someone's body language, whether they sit up straight, whether they tend to slouch a little bit, it all gives off some sort of vibe. Like, are we relaxed? Are we uptight? Everybody knows that we've been on those first dates, those first interviews, multiple interviews. It's the same way, because you always think about it when you're sitting down. Do I put my hands down? Because if I do, does that person know that I'm into them, or do I lean forward? So everything that we do, it's always questionable. Did someone tell me the truth or tell me a lie? So I want to start off with you guys first. The biggest way to find out if someone, we'll start out with the easiest stuff, the lying, because the truth is, to me, is a little bit harder for some folks. But the biggest thing, and we'll wait, the connection went away. There it is, came back. So the big thing is, when someone is telling a lie, you guys, what's one of those things that we should be looking out for as, I don't know, like a little trigger, I guess, to say?
All right, so you're talking. There's a lot to unpack with lies. I love this topic because it's an important topic, and we've been told lies about lies, and then we compound the lies and all sorts of lies, right? Like you said, we read an article. Oh my goodness, if the person looks left, they must be lying, or if they shift in their seat, So then we're on a date or we're talking to someone and they do something, we're like, oh, that's it. I read on Instagram that that's a red flag. That person scratched their head. They must be lying, right? And we make these judgments, right? The first thing I'd like to say before we even get in it, I would suggest, and I will say this, and one of my beliefs, and I'd like to hold my beliefs loosely, but this is one I hold a little tighter. People don't lie to other people. People lie for themselves. Now I know that's a tough one, right? And it blows people's minds when I say it. They're like, but no. That person lied to me. No. We all lie. We are all human.
Mm-hmm.
We've all learned the art of misinformation at a really, really young age. And you know what? We're kind of good at it. But I can tell you, any lie I've ever told has always been to protect myself, never to harm another person. And if we all sit and think for a second that the last time we lied, no judgment, because we all do it, we're all human.
Right.
I think you'll find the same fact is true. Now, with that being said, I'm going to turn you over to the body language, not expert, but guru over here to talk a little bit more about that. The question you actually asked.
You went from expert to guru. I think you made it worse.
I might have.
So, Angel, your question was,
how do we know?
Is there some technique, maybe a hack, so on and so forth? And there, look, there are a lot of experts out there with regards to both verbal and nonverbal communication. And that's what you're asking about. You're asking about that time when you sit down with a friend and you're sharing stories and you hear a story from your friend and whether it's your intuition, whatever it is that you want to call it, there's a thought in your mind that, oh my God, they might be lying to me. They may be telling me an untruth. How can I discern between, the truth and the untruth? And unfortunately, it's massively complicated. But there's one specific element that most of the experts, and I had a period in my life where I was doing research on this subject deeply because it had to do with my job, but that they all agree on, and that is the difference between normal and not normal. Right. So, Angel, you sit down with a friend of yours and you know them fairly well, and you're having a conversation, and there are just simply no red flags or there's no intuition spark. You're listening to their stories and everything feels natural. But then there's something that they say that doesn't feel right to you. And that's the difference likely between your reading normal behavior and your subconsciously being triggered to an abnormal behavior. The experts, talk and break down, the different body languages and the different moves, the directions that eyes are moving and or facial tics or touching their face and so on and so forth. And all those things definitely play into it. But what's most important is understanding what somebody's normal is. And in fact, even, where police interrogations are concerned, it's one of the facets of that is to understand this person you're talking to, what's their normal, relaxed, comfortable behavior versus this thing I just heard, how did they behave? What was the change in their tone? So many different pieces. Oh, we have a comment. Honestly, for me, the truth is a lot easier. I forget a lot, so lying works against me. The truth may hurt, but I think a lie hurts worse.
100% agree.
No doubt, no doubt. Agreed. But you had also, Angel, when you first started talking, we're talking about, there's a difference between how we interpersonally deal with the truth and deal with lies versus the media world or the information that's out there.
The fact checkers, this news, that news, this news, bad news.
Huge undertaking. And I really think that, if we focus on how we feel from and about the different pieces of information we get, whether it's interpersonal or it's from the media, how does it make me feel? Does it raise my fear? Do I start to, feel some sort of way against, whether it's political figures, sports figures, entertainment figures, simply because of this information I've gotten? That's an important aspect right there, is to really look at how it makes you feel.
Right.
Because that's what's going to, your deeper understanding of how you feel about these things are going to translate into your interpersonal very strongly.
And, and I like to think, I like to view, we view the media and the Facebook, social media and the internet, and then the news media, right? That's just kind of a macrocosm of our interpersonal relationships, which would be like the microcosm. It's the same thing, but just at a huge scale.
Absolutely.
Right. We see, people, having these same problems in one-on-one relationships, but it's just magnified, right? It's the collective, so to speak. So it does get, because we're all humans, right? We're all human beings.
Well, most of us.
Most of us are humans most of the time. But I think, people lie for all sorts of personal reasons. But again, like, those reasons are personal. They lie for themselves. They lie to inflate their standing, amongst their friends, to cover up inadequacies, to cover up something they're feeling shame about, to cover up a choice they might have made that, they are they're expecting judgment for, right? It's hardly ever about the other person.
But there are, to your point earlier, Angel, there are obviously people out there, there are companies out there, there are organizations who use misinformation. And of course, we feel as if it's lying. And there might be other catalysts behind that, obviously financial gain, market share, various different things like that. But, these are things that we understand. We almost expect that when the Lysol label on television, and maybe I shouldn't say an actual brand name, says that it kills 99.9% of the germs, our natural lie detector might go off and go, well, wait a minute, how did they determine that 0.01%? How did they get to that exact point? Well, it's misinformation, but it serves a bottom line. We're okay with that.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because you're gonna. It's the same way if, using the toothpaste products, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this, and it may not be for you, but those are the ones that we know that, okay, yes, we understand that doesn't work. Maybe a particular type of baking soda, someone has something crafty that they end up doing is, oh no, I came up with my own little mixture, and come to find out they just don't want to tell you exactly what they use to get, whether it's to spill out the carpet, wine out of the carpet, whatever. Those are those what I consider little white lies. You're not harming anybody because you don't want to give away, I guess, a secret of what makes things work for you. And there are companies that, yes, they do the same thing. If you buy this thing, Miracle Ear, you can hear from 1,000 yards away, and you put it in your ear, it hears like a bunch of tinning sound. So, those are different things that we hear. But it's just when people state something and they look directly at the camera, as we do on our podcast and our shows here, when you look directly into a camera and you try to tell someone that, listen, tomorrow, you're all going to wake up millionaires. And I know it because I said it, and I got a microphone in front of me, and whatever comes out of that mic and from that camera, I'm speaking the truth. And nowhere you're going to wake up. Now, what's going to happen? Tomorrow morning, everybody's going to wake up. Angel told me that I was supposed to wake up as a millionaire. Well, in whatever your way that you're looking at it, might feel like $1 million. You may have been so tired for weeks on end. So it's different ways you end up telling the lies, which then, of course, if you're in a relationship, and you tell your significant other. So remember that $1,000 that we did have? It was a little extra. I invested in it. Oh, what did you invest in? CarSense. Oh, okay. So what's expected of the returns? I don't know. We'll find out. Well, a couple weeks later, your significant other says, hey, that $1,000, do you think I can get it back because something happens with the car we need repair? Yeah, sure. And now you tell a lie on top of that one. Well, the CarSense wasn't working out too well, so I decided to go with sticky notes, and it's going to take a little bit longer. So that now those are when you start compounding the lies one on top of the other, versus just telling the simple truth by just saying, Well, I thought I was going to make a good investment. Apparently, I learned the hard way when I gave up $1,000 and I came up with a big old goose egg. And even though it's going to hurt, but telling the truth is a lot better.
Oh, absolutely. Just like, our, the comment that came in, what, like telling the truth, it is so much easier, but you know what? And sometimes it's scary to tell the truth, right? Because you're being vulnerable, and that's a scary word, right? And sometimes, it's easier, it's the cheap, easy, to come up with it. And then you're right. And then you have to come up with another lie to cover the first lie, and then another lie. And then it absolutely gets complicated in interpersonal relationships, intimate relationships. And it rarely ends well, right? when that's happening. And then we get into trust issues. But you're absolutely right. Telling the truth is so much easier. But we as humans were wired, other than food, shelter, and sex, we are also wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, right?
Right.
And sometimes we use those lies to avoid pain, right? I got to come up with they're asking me about that $1,000 that I actually played on the ponies, but she told me that she didn't want me to play the ponies. So let me come up with something that's a little less damaging to me, right? In this, less painful at the moment. Oh, I invested it in car sense, right? Sounds good. She'll buy it because we're avoiding pain. And a lot of times we lie for that reason, to avoid pain.
But even in your example, and especially in Angel's example, it was specifically to protect themselves. It's to protect. And I think also, like when you were talking, Angel, about the whether it's the commercial misinformation that's out there and why that, why doesn't that bother us as much as the interpersonal? Of course, that's easy to feel because of that word. It's not personal.
Right.
And that's one of the elements of being lied to that causes, or it is the thing that causes pain.
Right.
Someone lying to us and we don't know it, there's no pain.
Right.
Someone lies to us and we know it, there's pain involved, and it's because we have personalized it. It's about us, what they've said, what they did, that misinformation, the white lie, whatever it is, that's about me.
We've made it about ourselves.
We can't do that with the commercials,
right?
Because we know it's not about us.
And we almost expect the commercials to be a little bit off.
So the question that comes to my mind immediately after we have that portion of the conversation is, well, then the pain and the discomfort from lying, it resides inside of us.
Right.
What if we didn't make it personal? What if, Angel, in your example, buying the car sense, the other person, your partner or whoever it is, simply didn't make it about them. In other words, the fact that you told them an untruth.
Right.
Takes
right. Or even that person, that they watched you after you told them they were going to win the $1 billion megabucks the next day. They didn't win, rather than, oh my God, Angel lied to me. I feel so betrayed. Angel was wrong. Next. What am I going to have for breakfast today?
So much easier said than done.
So it is. It sounds so simple, but it's not easy because we do internalize it. We do. In
fact, the only time that it is a problem, lying, is when we have internalized it.
Yep. No, and it's absolute truth. And the tough part is that now again, in relation to again our society and the way it is today, and a lot of people have tuned out the news so much because we know what happened 2 years ago. We know what's coming up just a couple months from now. Come November, there's going to be some changes. But the part where it comes down to is who will be telling the truth in the very end, because we hope, like tonight, there's a couple of primary elections and key states that they're having. Now, will we see where they actually tally up the votes, do everything the way it's supposed to be done? Or are we going to start hearing about another water main break? Someone farted, so unfortunately they couldn't. They smelled up the room, and now they can't put the counts together. I mean, there's going to be all kinds of things that end up coming up that we may hear come tomorrow morning. And the fear is come November that we hear the same things over and over again. We don't want to see what happened 2 years ago, and yet alone what we see now with them, with people saying, well, there's no such thing as inflation. Well, then you're also living under a rock, because there is inflation. As we saw, you spend all kinds of frugal money and everything else. But again, you tell the American people a different story. How much are they going to continue to believe? How much do they feel like, okay, you know what? Maybe the government is telling me partial truth, and they're going to tell me things are going to get better. And the bad part is keep believing. And now we have to decipher which one is which. Are we doing what we can, the best that we can for us, for our children, for our families? Are we going to continue feeding all these lies to all these people and have people just succumb by what we want them to hear? In relation, we know that COVID is around forever. There's going to be different variants. It's going to be whatever they know. I have my own theories of how in the world it came about, but I won't share because I'm pretty sure people go absolutely bananas. But at the same time, too, is how much can you believe from that? Because now it's like they come up with different stories when a new version comes out. So first was, well, it's going to kill you. Well, it didn't kill a lot of people, not at least as many as millions upon millions, as they said, as again, the truth is coming out. The bad part is you have to look and research and do what you're supposed to do to actually see how much of it actually was truth. So when we keep hearing lie after lie after lie, do we start to believe those lies just to be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to let them talk and say whatever they want to. And I know exactly what the truth is. But then you have the conversation, just like you talked about earlier. You're at dinner with your friends. If I come to see you guys in the Bahamas and we're all sitting down, and the three of us, because we have a great relationship and great bond here, someone new might come into the conversation and say, hey, I hear you guys talking about politics, and they get involved and they talk about everything else. And they're like, listen, whatever you guys say, you guys are lying. We know exactly what went on over there in your states. So it's getting more and more complicated to know if people are actually more welcoming of telling the truth. Because me personally, it's like my producer. If she's going to buy something and she knows she thinks it may look good, she's going to ask me. She knows I'm brutally honest, because what would be the point of if she purchased, let's say, a dress or a shirt and she thought it looked great and she comes home and she puts it on. All right, we're going on tonight with what? With that? No, go get changed because it doesn't look good. But that's the truth. And it may hurt a little bit, but it's a truth. So for me, she knows it, because I know I will never, ever, ever let her step out anywhere where she knows it doesn't look good on her or is not the right fit. And unfortunately, when you tell some people like that, whether it be in friends, family, whatever the case may be, it's hurtful, because some people, and we've always heard this, because everyone has had a female friend or a female family member that's always said, do I look fat in a dress? And this guy will actually tell you if you do or not, only because you're asking me the truth. So why lie to you? Because then when we go out somewhere, people are going to be looking like, where did you buy that? And the girl's going to feel like, oh, I got it from Penny's or wherever. And then she's going to turn around and look at her girlfriend and say, oh my God, does she not know that it looks ridiculous on her? And if she hears that, if she ear hustles enough, I'm going to be the bad guy, because she's like, I thought you told me I look like $1 million.
Why didn't you tell me, Angel? Why did you let me out of the house like this? Right.
Yeah. So, that's where, again, this is where we start to, even though it may seem like something so small, but then people are like, well, I'm not going to ask him anything anymore, because the next time I ask him, he's going to tell me the same exact thing, because that's now what you've developed in your mind. So we hope, as we continue with this journey of life, that the people that we come across, the people that we talk to, those in leadership positions, actually start learning how to tell that truth a lot more, no matter how much it hurts. Because in the end, that's the best thing to tell. Everyone, just like you said, Gina, in the very beginning, everyone has told a lie at one point or another. It was either to save themselves. The biggest one is always who? Your employer. Listen, I'm not feeling well. I got the 1-day flu. What's that? Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Meanwhile, you're out surfing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think you hit right on the nail with the hammer absolutely perfectly what lies at the center of this question of truth and lies. And it's trust. When it comes to the politicians and the elections that are coming up, do we trust politicians? No, we don't. And perhaps, while we want them to tell the truth beginning to now tell the truth and continue into the future telling the truth because of the history of the quote unquote lies that they've been telling. We have no trust there. But we can look at that and we can understand that potentially, you know, when a candidate gets up to the pulpit and is going to start speaking about what he or she plans to do, they're talking about the future. They're making promises. In fact, the stories that they're telling are truth at that point until.
And they may very well believe these stories.
Absolutely.
That, you know, it could be their belief at that moment.
Then they get into office and they find that, you know, that things don't work out the same way that they either had hoped or they already knew it. And they start to take actions which turn their truth, their earlier stated truth, into lies. But we know this. We understand it. We don't like it. We definitely wish it were different and a change. But because we have that understanding, I think we can look at that slightly different and have an expectation that I'm not going to put the trust into the words of somebody in that situation.
And like you said, Angel, you said, you know, it comes to personal responsibility to do your research, right? Read some articles, you know, don't take, you know, things at such face values. Research, read the books, read the articles, you know, because a lot of times we're talking about beliefs, right? And there's a device. We're coming into the political land again, where we're going to go through a lot of what we've already been through, right? You know, and a lot of times they're up there and what they're talking about, they truly believe, right? It doesn't make it true for you. It doesn't make it true maybe for someone down the street, but maybe it does make it true for them, right? So we all have to find our personal truth too. You know, the land of social media and the fact checkers and all, you know, that drives me nuts. Because again, that all boils down to like opinions a lot of times, right? And everybody has opinions about everything. It doesn't make it true, right? Someone might have the opinion, you know, that the Eagles are the best sports team ever in the history of the world, right? And that's awesome. And you may agree with that. But, you know, somebody from, you know, Las Vegas might now be like, no, you know what? It's the Raiders. And neither one are wrong, right?
Right.
It's just they're coming from a different truth because we all have
beliefs
and different beliefs. But like you said, personal responsibility when it comes to the big stuff, you know, the politics, the COVID, you know, the pandemics, the plagues, the fires, the floods, the bloods, right? Do your research, right?
Absolutely.
Because in there you'll find not the truth, capital T truth, because I'm one, I don't think that even exists, but you'll find some little T truths that resonate with you along the way.
There's a famous quote that I will completely not requote because I won't remember it, and I do not remember who said it, but it's something along the lines of anything outside of physics is just our version of the truth. So we absolutely know that if we, you know, run off of a cliff, we're going to fall. Well, there's physics for you. There's a truth. If I step off the cliff, will I fall? Yes, there's a truth. That person lied to me. Is that outside the world of physics? Absolutely. It's inside the minds of human beings, in which case everybody's got their own version of the truth. You had mentioned COVID earlier, Angel, and look, I want to point out, in the face of truth and lies, you know, as we look back over the last couple of years, what drove all of that we're now calling misinformation around COVID and is still driving it? One specific human emotion: fear.
Yep.
And I can sometimes relate to the idea that, you know, even the Surgeon General or the president at the time, you know, why were even the CDC, even on top of all of the facts that they had, all of the data that they had, what was driving the recommendations for shutdown? What was driving recommendations for masks, for eventually the vaccination? It was fear. And if we can recognize that there might be fear behind those pieces of information, well, then guess what? it's not about us. We don't have to take it personal.
Nope.
And they did the best that they could with what they had at that time. And no, it's not good enough for me, but that's what was happening.
And it's still happening here in the Bahamas. We still wear masks.
Still wearing masks.
We're still wearing masks, and it's still driven by fear, right? And a lot of the motivation is driven by fear. And I mean, that's one of the, I don't know, I guess, I hate the word negative, but I guess downsides of technology is because,
Right.
Fear is so very contagious, right? Fear is a bigger virus than even COVID.
And you can monetize it.
And you can monetize it.
Sure can.
And you can also, viralize it. Fear is viral, and it becomes viral on social media.
Yep.
And I think fear is a tool that's used by politicians. It's used by, marketing, right? Fear sells. Fear, is a money maker on, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's politics, whether it's your Lysol, kill all those germs, whether it's the smart water, I'm afraid to be stupid, so I better buy some smart water. It's driven by fear. And then it circles back to the lies. What are all lies driven by? Fear, 100% of the time. So there is a common thread, whether it's personal or collective.
No, it is. And, it's exactly right. And by the way, before I come up with my answer here, I think, Ducky, this might be you. I'm not too sure. I know I'm ready for some Eagles football. And this might be Ducky. I'm not 100% certain, but I know August 12th, I will be here. Unfortunately, I won't be up north. I'll be down here in Tampa because I got a lot of stuff that's going on down here as well. So that and preparing for football season. So
there's a great invite, though.
Yeah,
it is. No, it definitely is. But unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because at that time we're at the height of doing our show as well. So I wish I could. I wish I could be up there for the Pittsburgh game, but someone's got to man the show because Fuji's going to that game. So someone has to control everything from behind the scenes, unfortunately. So it is Ducky.
I have a question about this, since we're talking about the Eagles. So I did see they changed the font of their logo.
Yeah.
So how is it a good thing?
Is that truth or is that a lie?
I don't know. Is it lay some knowledge on us? Drop some. Is it a truth? Is it a lie? Is it a good? Is it not so good? Where are we at with that?
So it is true that they changed it, but it's only supposed to be changed for this particular season because they're trying to change, once again, as you just mentioned not too long ago, right? It's between like fear and the money and everything else. So the Eagles, to bring in the younger generation, they figured that they would go with this new lettering. Well, it backfired miserably because everybody hates the new lettering. You might find a certain few amount of people that actually like it, but those of us who have the old Eagles logo, that's what we're keeping. So this was something that was just created by the Eagles for one season. It was more of a marketing thing. They wanted to see, okay, how well it's going to be received. I will tell you within the first 5 minutes that it was launched on social media, the backlash was a lot worse than the reception of what they thought were being like, oh my God, it's going to be great. Nope, it was horrendous. And it continues to be. So I don't know who came up with that, but I think to counteract what he did, the NFL approved of the Eagles all black helmet that they end up using when they do the blackout nights. They go with the black uniforms. So I guess it went from, boy, this is terrible, to, oh my God, the NFL finally did something right for us. So it's, it's where the truth and lies come in. But as far as, when we talk about the CDC and we talk about as far as like what goes on with COVID and everything else and the fear factor, when you look at Lysol, interesting enough, and Lysol, you're welcome for all the free plugs here tonight. But,
right, exactly.
When you look at it, it's the irony. And I want everybody to really think about this. In the 2 years, as some places are still trying to get back to normal here, in those 2 years, as of recent, you just saw Lysol back at Target and Publix or Acme or wherever else that you shop, and the commercials are starting to come back. Now, why would Lysol? And it's not because of the supply chain shortages. There's a reason behind it all. Why? Because Lysol has always stated it'll kill what? 99.9% germs. And if you guys look on the can, on the new ones, ironically, they don't have it. On the older cans, it used to say it would kill bacteria and COVID. Now, ironically, how was that on there if COVID truthfully didn't happen? So the stuff was on there before, but now it's gone. It's re-lettered. So I want everybody, when you buy a new can of Lysol, take a look how everything now has been magically transformed. It still kills 99%, but they changed it all because they knew that if Lysol was still readily available on the market, yes, all these contact things that we went through would have not been around. Because of why? Because we know that it actually works. When your kids, your family members have a flu in the house, what do? Get the Lysol, spray in the knobs, spray it everywhere, spray it all over the place. And ironically, a lot of this stuff ends up going away. So it's just when people want to talk about like, well, before you throw shade at somebody, well, the companies have to look at themselves because there are certain companies that were not around that are just now starting to come back. The same thing, if we take a look at when you talk about truth and lies, how is it possible that baby formula all this time during the pandemic was A-OK and okie dokie. And then all of a sudden it becomes a panic stricken until it took some babies to die for the government to turn around and say, oh, listen, we got everything straightened out. There's nothing to see here, folks. There's another smoking mirror that's right behind me. But we chased the smoke out of it and now everything goes back to normal. So when you start feeding, this is why I keep saying it, when you start feeding people lies over and over again, how much are you going to start believing the truth when they want to come back and say so? You look at the gas prices, right? What do they blame it on? They blamed it on Russia. Well, let me check. 2 years ago, when someone entered the office, things started going up in this direction, right? It was right here at level ground that all you had to do was take the ball, run with it, and you would have been just fine. Nope. We want to change words and we want to tell people other things. We want to say that was a very bad man. I'm the good guy here, and watch things goes up. Unfortunately, inflation, prices, everything goes up, but the rest of the country goes down. Why? Because now it's divided, and it's worse than even divided. So now the people are just getting tired of being fed lies all the time because exactly what it is. And anyone can come on here at another show and they can debate me forever because I love debates. That's a great thing. I got a good friend that's in politics, and he knows it as well. Him and I go back and forth a lot of different things. But again, it comes down to how much of a lie you're going to believe. And if it, and as I say it, and for those who are going to listen to the audio download show of the house here overseas and in different countries, and I appreciate everyone who always tunes in and also downloads the program, but take a look at the Lysol products and ask yourself, why did they take a hiatus? The company was still there. The factory was still there. Why was there a major hiatus for them in those 2 years? Oh, yeah, because the CDC, once again, controls a lot of things that they know would have killed so many different things at a different variation and different rates than to say, you know what, we're going to put the fear in everybody. And as long as you stay in the house, you'll be just fine. You see people drive around in their cars, one person in the car. And what are they doing? I can't breathe. Oh my God, it's so hot. I'm the only person inside my car. Well, then take it off. If you fear life that bad, stay in your house. Because
it does. It boils down, like you said, to beliefs, right? Yeah. And what's being put out there in the news. I mean, a lot of, what's going on in our heads, a lot of it is influence of what we're putting on in our heads, so, and then, combine them with our personal beliefs, no judgment. If someone wants to, is still wearing a mask and is concerned about their health and doing all the right things, great. That's your personal choice. Those are your personal choice. It doesn't make you wrong, right? Another person has a different view of it. It doesn't make you wrong, right? When it gets tricky is when
we make it personal,
right? Their choices somehow are affecting me, right?
Right.
And we try to get into the right fight, right? We have to win because I'm right, because I know, this and that about COVID, or I don't know this and that, and then we seek to win the argument rather than understand, right, where the person is coming from. If there was more understanding, there would be less, I think, BS on, social media. It hurts my heart so many times that I've seen people on social media unfriending people because of their beliefs on a political person or a plague. family members not speaking anymore because, someone is pro-mask and someone is not. That hurts my heart, right? Because that is, to me, that's the real plague, not the bug, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's the divisiveness.
Absolutely. And Angel, earlier you had stated a question a couple of times, and I think it's worth. I don't think we can answer it. The question being, how long will we put up with the misinformation or the lies? How long will we deal with or allow, or when will we get so frustrated that anarchy ensues? And I think what sits at the core is exactly what Genia just got done explaining. If each of us as an individual can just wrap our heads around, or at least be open enough to understand why people, companies, politicians, the CDC, our family member, why people lie, and realize that I can make it personal, I can make it about me, and if I do so, then I will have a breaking point. I will have a point when I go, they're toxic, I'm done. I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to join some militia. But if we can recognize, if I don't make it personal, if it is just them doing what they need to do because of their own fears, or they're seeking the market share, or in your case, like with Lysol, there's two ways of looking at that. Did they take responsibility internally, and now they're coming up, they took some time off and now they're coming up with a new campaign? Or was it, oh my God, we've got to cover it up. We got
to cover our assets
and how we can continue and perpetuate the lie, because that lie equates to dollars for us.
Right.
Look, whichever way you tend to believe, if you're not taking it personal, well, then you won't have a breaking point. You won't get to a point where your mistrust of the entire world and companies and so on and so forth means you're, going to crumble or hide inside your house or break through that breaking point.
And limiting, and being selective of the outlets that you are getting your information from, being more discerning of, who and what you're putting into your mind will help. I haven't watched mainstream news in years.
We actually made a decision years ago. We actually haven't had cable television.
Right.
We select and choose off of Netflix. We don't read the newspaper. I think about the only information we get, and it's only a trickle, might be through Facebook or social media.
Your little social media. Yeah, that's enough.
But we love learning about the details of what's happening from you tonight, because, man, I learned quite a bit.
And I would tell people, question, your best defense against anything that you're seeing on the news, seeing on social. Question everything. Be curious. Do some research, read some articles, use Dr. Google, right? Google everything.
Yeah.
And learn for yourself and see what resonates with you, right? My dad used to say, had this phrase, oh, you'll die of a misprint. And, it's true. Like if we don't take personal responsibility and do our own due diligence, we're going to be yanked around by the emotions of the newscaster of the day.
Of the lies,
what's true, what's not. Find out what's true for you, right? And hold your beliefs, but hold them loosely and be open to other people's point of view. Okay, you know what? Thank you for your point of view. I'll consider it. I don't really agree. And be okay with that. Right?
If it's important enough to you, you'll do the research. If it's not that important to you, you won't. You won't be taking it personal either way.
And while we're at it, let's have Facebook get rid of the fact checkers, because they are kind of annoying.
Yeah. Well, because that's the whole thing. Yep. No, it's true. And Jesse's right as well, because the problem is that you have to do the research, and so many people don't want to do anymore. You know why? Because again, this thing that could be a good friend of yours is also a worst enemy. Why? Because people don't take it. We talked about this in another session, that people, the art of communication is absolutely gone. And those who want to talk and have a conversation, because same way, and I use the same scenario we did a little bit earlier. I come to visit you guys to the Bahamas. The same person now that was telling us, don't believe everything that you're hearing, all of a sudden he hears a conversation and he says, man, even though those guys, I didn't believe everything they were saying. Maybe I should do some research. And then we go and have, let's say 2 days later, we all go to have coffee. You know, Debbie, my producer, walks in the room and she says, hey, remember that guy that was talking? And he said that we were all full like baloney and everything else. Well, he's coming back. So now the guy comes back and goes, hey, you guys, I just wanted to apologize and said that I'm not saying that what you were telling me were all truth, but I did some research. Now you're gathering information and you're collaborating, you're going back and forth, right? Which makes a lot of sense. So now you take away what was the lie and what became the truth. And who knows, you may have come across something and you were a stern believer that you knew you were telling the truth. And then someone said, well, it's kind of ironic because in this article right here, 4 million people did say that, you know, that was a myth bust or whatever the case may be. So you may not be, and Gia, you said this earlier, you may not be right all the time. You're going to make the arguments. Everybody's going to make the argument that they're always right, no matter what. If I tell you the sky is purple outside, you're going to tell me it's blue. No, I see purple. Maybe I'm colorblind. Who knows? But I'm always going to be right. So it's taking that time to actually learning, believing, trying to understand and cope with each other to say, okay, we need to get better at this. We need to get better at communication. We need to get better at so many different things. But we also lie to each other too, because it's like, okay, I'm going to do this research. And then you get sidetracked with something else and you forget to do it. And then you go back to that conversation and that person says, hey, remember I asked you to do this for me? Oh yeah, well, my dog, you know, was having like anxiety at night and I kind of felt bad. So I decided to cut off. In the meantime, you're thinking in your head, oh my God, I forgot. Oh my God. Right. And your side note, you know that you're doing wrong. So instead of just saying, you know what, you're right. And I forgot. Honestly, I forgot, but I will make sure that I will follow through with what you asked me to do and I'll get back to you. It's
make that the normal. I mean, but like I said, make that the normal. That's a personal choice. So I'm like, if you find yourself coming up with the excuse, honestly, it's difficult and it's uncomfortable, right? It is super uncomfortable to really, you know, gosh, share your truth with someone. You know, someone texts you on the phone, right? And you just don't answer them, right? And then they're all thinking that you goes, rather than, or like make it normal to say, listen, I really don't have the mind space for this right now. I didn't have a good sleep. I'm not feeling well, but I'd love, you know, to talk to you a little bit later. Like, but it feels weird. We're not taught to do that. We are not taught to have boundaries like that. Right. I just don't have the bandwidth. Listen, I started that practice, you know, being really honest, right, about, you know, I can't have that conversation with you right now. I just don't have the bandwidth, right? That's a practice, right? And
that will feel uncomfortable at first. And
it will feel uncomfortable. And it should, because it's just not a skill that we ever learn. We're told to make excuses, right?
But what we're not aware of is that just by chance, or usually is going to happen, we get an immediate reward because that type of truth is actually met very favorably. We just don't think about that ahead of time. But
right. And then we don't have to compound, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot easier. It's, you know, really it's just leaning into that pain of the discomfort. Like I said earlier, the pleasure pain principle, you know, speaking your truth, you know, for whatever reason, it just feels uncomfortable.
Well, the first comment that popped up on screen,
you
know, it's just easier.
It's just easier.
It is.
Right?
And you know, the only thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then by doing that, you actually, you know, you might inspire someone else to do the same thing. Oh my God, that was really cool. That Angel actually said he didn't have the bandwidth for this conversation and didn't, you know, tell me his dog had like gotten sick. Like that was really cool. I'm going to try that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's first of all, in the story I'm going to share in a second, but it's the absolute truth, because the worst part is, especially when you meet someone for the very first time, whether it's a complete stranger or you're going somewhere because you're hanging out with your friends, that first impression is always going to be just like we've known for many, many years. The first impression is the last impression you're ever going to make on someone. Now, if you're in a group that if, let's say, for your friends, you consider your cool friends, like the people that you can associate with and say whatever on your mind, and everybody can do whatever they want to for that moment. That's great. But then there also, one friend might tell you, oh, by the way, remember those kind of like spoiled people I was telling you about? Well, they're going to be there too. So now you come with this mindset, okay, am I going to be me, the character that I am in front of my friends, or do I have to build up this character to make myself sound smart? So when people meet me, it's like, oh yeah, yes, well, my Mercedes is outside. I know I was thinking about trading it, maybe kind of like an upgrade, but I'm not too sure. I like the C-Class, but now Cadillac is coming up with a $300,000 vehicle, and I've got enough money to put away for that, kind of toy money. So now you got to remember everything you just said, because the next time that person runs into you, and it could be just at a regular department store, like, hey, how did you make out with that? Didn't you say you were buying a Cadillac for $300,000? And now your brain, you're going, wait, what conversation did I have?
Did I say that? I don't remember.
Right. Yeah,
but,
so that's
and we all have done that. We've all put our best foot forward on a date or on a job interview, right? We're human beings. We are so good at the art of fitting in. We really are. Right. And it's easy. It's easy to fit in and become the person,
that you think other people think they want.
Right.
Right.
I just bought, you're hanging out with the snooties and like whatever you said. And I've got this $400 million yacht and this and that. And then they see you at Wawa. And like, how's your yacht? What? It gets complicated. But we do it to fit in because we are wired for connection. So it is absolutely normal to inflate, conflate, and stretch a little bit to feel like we're fitting in. And that's something, that we learned from our caregivers. We learned, at a young age, right? Act the way you're expected to act. And we could dive deeper into that, when we talk about, parents, how they label us or things like that. What we're not very good at as humans is true belonging, feeling like you truly belong somewhere, right? And that only can come through being authentic.
Yeah, no, it's
That's
true.
Hard stuff right there. Because being authentic, God, they're gonna see the real me. Oh my God, what if they don't like what they see? What if they know that I burned cookies every time I bake them? Like, what if they see my dark, crusty edges? But honestly, the only way to truly belong is to be truly authentic.
It's so true, because the worst thing is that, if you have to be someone else other than being yourself, then maybe you should think about the people you hang out with or the place that you go. For me, for years, the biggest nerd, I'm still a nerd till today. Right. And I have no problem admitting that. I told you guys before that before in a different conversation, but I rather, if I'm going to say something to you, I'm going to be as bold as frank as I possibly can. Some people don't like it. They'll be like, oh my God, either, hey, you're an a-hole, or I just think the way you think it's completely absurd. When they go back and they think about the conversation, and then the next time I see that might be the same person, like, I kind of thought about what you said, and I shouldn't have called you an a-hole. I guess maybe I should have kind of opened up a little bit more to see what you were talking about, because it's how we engage in a conversation as well. Now, if it's one night where everybody picked a topic and we're like, all right, tonight's going to be political night, and everybody brings in, just lays everything on the table and talks about politics and everything else, that's kind of like a time to shine, because now is when you want to bring a lot of these truths. But of course, there's going to be an argument because it's politics. Politics is filled with what? Truth and lies. So those are times, like, you pick your battles upon when you want to have these conversations and how you want to be. Now, again, for me, there's a limit where I will hold like a threshold, per se. Once that threshold is crossed, the next set of words may not be the most choice words, but I even think about exactly what I want to say, because for me, if I'm frank with people and I'm talking to them in a great setting, but you keep coming at me like you want to choke the crap out of me, I'll just tell you, go F yourself. It's just that simple. Because for me, it's okay. I'm telling you right now, stop, end the conversation. That's it. Cool it down. We'll come back to it. Because it shouldn't never get to that point. It should be understandings. Knowing that if I catch you in something, I'm going to bring it out. I don't care who it is, whether in front of your boyfriend, girlfriend, family, whatever case may be, in the same way I expect it for people in return. Because if I say something and a family member of mine was there, and then they go back and they're another day with me with another friend of mine, and it's like, wait a minute, you told me this thing here. I'm busted. So now they're calling me out. I got to make sure that I am like, all right, you know what? Yeah, uncle, you know what? Okay, so I did lie, but I was lying because I want to get myself out of a situation. But either way you look at it, you still lied. Now, the difference is if you don't want to go to a particular party, does that white lie come into effect? Yeah, you could tell the person, honestly, I don't want to go. I'm sorry. I'm not in the mood or anything else like that. But what ends up happening? I got to buy an outfit, and then I don't know what outfit's going to look good. And, I'm coming home late from work. And so how about if I can make it, I'll try. Then it becomes
so you're either lying to yourself or you're lying to that person or you're doing both.
Right.
But see, Angel, I think you do something, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, during this past hour. You warn people, I am going to be frank. I'm going to speak my mind. And I don't know. I guess I don't think we really talk about that enough. That's a great thing that I've known a few people who have done that.
Yeah.
But
it's huge.
Imagine what you're doing. You're setting yourself up to tell the truth.
Right.
Even the uncomfortable truth. Or if it's so uncomfortable, you just opt not to speak.
Right.
And I think that's commendable. And that's awesome.
Another thing, that you said, like, you have discernment, and that, these friends I can have these political discussions with and really come to an understanding, whether we agree or not. Right. And then, these people this group over here, maybe I wouldn't, really, engage in that type of conversation with them. So it really is about being discerning. Right. Of what types of conversations that you're choosing to get into with the people you're, choosing
connecting with.
Yeah, connecting with.
Right. No,
right.
And that's why, the funny part, and I want to say stories were coming up here on the hour, but I went to an interview, this is years ago, and I was shaved, professionally dressed. And as I went through the interview process, it took about 40 minutes. In the end, the guy tells me, I believe that you may not be exactly the person that we're looking for, but we thank you for coming in. And to me, I looked at it, I was like, okay, so you just 45 minutes, we were in this conversation. And basically you knew from the time I walked in a room, it was a good probability that you didn't want to hire me. Now, the irony, as I got back in my car, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go home. I'm going to change. I'm coming right back. Mind you, as I said, I was professionally dressed. Went home, put on my military uniform, walked back inside the same office and told them, hey, listen, I didn't fill out an application as of yet, but I did hear through a friend that you guys were hiring for this particular position. And I want to see if I can just talk to someone, within the next hour or so. The lady that was at the front desk immediately went inside to talk to the same manager I had just seen about 45 minutes ago, went in there. 2 minutes into the conversation, he says, you know what, you are just the perfect candidate that we're looking for. So here's the starting pay. Here's what's going on, this and that. And I just kind of took a step back and I said, you know what's funny? I was just here close to 45 minutes ago. And the only difference between that conversation and this conversation is the uniform that I'm wearing. So that's the only proving point that I want to do to you. So thank you now for your time and for telling me that I have the job, but I would like to gladly decline working here for your company, because I see that you guys don't see people. You just want to hear what you want at the moment, or the perception looks is better for you. So thank you for your time, but I'm out. And I left, because what difference did it make that if I still was me, I didn't know, there was no facial hairs, nothing else, professional suit. And just because I came back in my military uniform, things change. So it goes to show you too, that when people, he could have just came out and said, hey, listen, I'm not going to waste a lot of your time. I just think that maybe we're not a right fit for each other. And, we'll just move. I'd have been more comfortable with that than to go through what I did and then experiment my own self, only come to find out it was just because I threw on my uniform. So that adds to the same way with all this, all these things that go on. But, the only thing that we hope for as we'll continue. And by the way, everyone, for those who are listening in, those who are still watching, coaching sessions will be back on its normal night on Mondays, except for, as this lovely couple reminding me, when it comes to Monday Night Football, it will be switched from Monday night to Tuesday night. So if Eagles play on Monday night, coaching sessions will be followed by on Tuesday night. So that's the only days you guys end up seeing the switch back and forth. But listen, you guys, it's I'm pretty sure that we can go on for this and I'll spawn off on different topics. So we're going to leave that with that there with the truth and lies. And I'm pretty sure I'll grab something else from this conversation. Hopefully other people do as well. And then next week, who knows? It'll be maybe a collective of this week that can spawn into other things. So it was great once again seeing you guys. I'm glad you're nice and healthy, more importantly, because I know Gia for a while you weren't feeling too well. So it looks like, and same way with you, Jesse. So I'm glad you guys made that bounce back, and it's great to see you both.
It's amazing to see you, Angel, and thank you again. We love this.
We love this. We love that coaching sessions are back in action. And we can stack on to the truth and lies, maybe add a little judgment next week or something fun like that. I'm sure we'll come up with something.
Pandora's box has
been opened, and we are here to break through.
You know what? Remind me for next week of Judgment would, oh boy, that would be quite the show for Judgment, because as we love to not tell the lies, but boy, do we love to judge. It's just the way things go. And unfortunately, and it could work both ways as well. So you know what? That would be the great topic for next week. So we'll finish up with the truth and lies halfway there, and to make the full circle with the judgment. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And for anybody who out there wants to join in, please, by all means, end up joining in come next week. So until then, we hope that everyone has a great week. We will be, of course, back on the sports show on Thursday. I hope that Fuji and Kristen are enjoying their vacation out there in Mexico, because they're trying to get some time away to make sure to get that R&R, because his wife, Kristen's about to go back to school. So we know that the school year is going to be a supply shortage of teachers and school bus drivers and everything else. So this is their getaway. So I hope they're enjoying themselves and have a lot of fun. So with that all being said, we hope to see you guys come next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening. This has been Broad Street South with Gia and Jesse on coaching sessions. And we will see you guys right back here next week. Oh, I see one more comment before I sign off here. Have a good night. And Ducky, if that was you, thank you so much for watching and for everyone tuning in. So we'll see everybody here again next Monday night at 8 o'clock.